Earth made first contact with the Galactic Council in 2157. The UES Frontier, Earth's most advanced spaceship, approached the massive Council station orbiting a distant star. Captain John Miller stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the view screen. The station looked like a giant metal flower with 12 petals, each representing one of the Council species. "Are we ready for this?" asked First Officer Kate Wilson, standing beside him. Miller nodded. "We've been preparing for this moment for decades." The ship's communicator beeped. A blue-skinned alien with 4 eyes appeared on screen. "UES Frontier, this is Council Station Alpha. You are cleared to dock in Bay 7. The Council awaits your arrival." Miller took a deep breath. "Acknowledged, Station Alpha. Beginning docking procedures." As the Frontier moved into position, the crew stared in awe at the other ships around them. Sleek vessels with no visible engines glided silently through space. Some seemed to bend light around them, while others glowed with strange energies. "Their technology is so advanced," whispered Science Officer Ben Harper. "Look at those ships. No exhaust ports, no thrusters. They must use some kind of gravity manipulation." The Frontier docked with a gentle bump. Miller adjusted his uniform and assembled his team. Harper, Wilson, Security Chief Rick Davis, and Dr. Susan Gray. Together, they walked down the corridor to meet humanity's first alien diplomats. The Council chamber was enormous. 12 different alien species sat at an elevated semicircular table. Some looked almost human, while others were completely foreign, crystalline beings, floating gas clouds contained in special suits, and creatures that seemed made of living metal. At the center sat Ambassador Zolthrak of the Vordari Empire, tall and imposing with green scaly skin and 6 fingers on each hand. His species apparently led the Council. "Welcome, humans of Earth," Zolthrak's voice boomed across the chamber. "We have watched your development with great interest. Your achievement of faster-than-light travel has qualified you for contact." Miller stepped forward. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we thank you for this welcome. We come in peace and friendship, hoping to learn and share knowledge with our galactic neighbors." The Council members murmured among themselves. A small purple alien leaned forward. "I am Krishan of the Zorvan Collective. We are particularly interested in your planet's history and development. Your species achieved space travel rather quickly after discovering electricity." Miller nodded. "Humans are curious by nature. Once we understand something is possible, we work hard to achieve it." The conversation continued smoothly until Security Chief Davis shifted his position, revealing the standard-issue pistol at his hip. Several Council members gasped. "Is that a projectile weapon?" asked the floating crystalline being, sounding shocked. Davis looked confused. "Yes, it's a standard sidearm." The Council chamber erupted in whispers. Zolthrak raised a 6-fingered hand for silence. "You still use weapons that propel metal fragments? How? Quaint." His mouth formed what seemed to be a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Miller felt his face grow hot. "Our firearms are highly effective and reliable." Krishan leaned toward another Council member. "They haven't even developed basic energy weapons yet." "Fascinating." Zolthrak's voice turned condescending. "The Council abandoned such primitive tools millennium ago. We use targeted energy that can disable without destroying or kill with pinpoint accuracy." To demonstrate, he pulled out a small silver device. It hummed softly as a beam of blue light shot out, creating a perfect hole in a distant wall panel. "No recoil, no projectile to run out, and adjustable power settings," he explained proudly. Miller noticed several Council members barely containing their amusement. Earth's most advanced representatives suddenly felt like cavemen with clubs. "Despite your technological limitations," Zolthrak continued, "we grant humanity provisional membership status. Krishan's science team will help assess your readiness for full integration." Krishan approached after the meeting. "I would be most interested in studying these projectile weapons of yours." Perhaps we could include them in our Museum of Evolutionary Technology. Miller forced a smile. First contact was successful, but Earth clearly had a long way to go to earn the Council's respect. 3 months after first contact, a delegation from the Galactic Council arrived on Earth. The sleek alien ship landed at the International Space Command in Geneva, Switzerland. 5 representatives emerged, 1 each from the Vordari, Ikari, Zorvan, Trell, and Navari species. Lieutenant Samantha Reed stood at attention, chosen to escort the visitors during their stay. As the military liaison, she would handle the defense portion of their tour. "Welcome to Earth," she said, offering the traditional council greeting. Right hand open, palm outward. The Vordari delegate, Ambassador Zolthrak, returned the gesture. "We look forward to learning more about your civilization, primitive though it may be." Reed kept her face neutral despite the subtle insult. "We've arranged a full schedule, including visits to our cultural centers, academic institutions, and military facilities." Military facilities. The Ikari delegate, General Vos, stepped forward. His species resembled large felines with silvery fur and bright yellow eyes. "I would be most interested in this. Do you still use those? What did you call them?" "Guns." "We do," Reed answered. "In fact, we've prepared a demonstration if you're interested." General Vos flicked his tail. "How amusing. Yes, let us see these ancient weapons." The next day, Reed brought the delegation to the North American Defense Command training facility. They entered a massive indoor shooting range where various weapons were displayed on tables. "These are standard-issue firearms used by our military and security forces," Reed explained, picking up a handgun. "This is a pistol, effective at close range." The Trell delegate, a gelatinous being contained in a hovering environmental suit, moved closer. "It uses controlled explosions to propel metal, correct?" "How inefficient." "It may seem so," Reed replied, "but it's reliable and effective." General Vos laughed, a strange purring sound. "In combat, I would destroy you before you could even aim such a device." He pulled out his energy weapon. "Observe." The range officer set up targets at the far end of the range. Humanoid silhouettes at various distances. General Vos fired his weapon 3 times. Silent beams of green light struck each target, leaving perfect holes in the center. "No sound, no flash, no recoil," he purred proudly. "Energy weapons are superior in every way." The other council members demonstrated their weapons as well. The Zorvan's weapon froze targets solid. The Trells dissolved them with acid. The Navaris created strange gravity distortions that crushed the targets. Reed nodded appreciatively. "Impressive technology. Now, would you like to see our weapons in action?" General Vos gestured grandly. "Please, entertain us." Reed motioned to a soldier standing nearby. "This is Master Sergeant Jack Powell, one of our top marksmen." Powell stepped forward with a Barrett sniper rifle. He lay down in the proper position, took aim, and fired. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. The council members jumped back in shock. The target, placed nearly a mile away at the extreme end of the underground range, showed a massive hole where the bullet struck precisely through the center. "What was D8?" gasped the Navari delegate, their crystalline structure vibrating in alarm. "That was a .50 caliber sniper rifle," Reed explained calmly. Powell fired again. Another perfect hit. Then again. The Trell's environmental suit changed colors rapidly. "The noise, the force, how do your soldiers endure it?" Reed smiled slightly. "We're used to it. And we wear protection for our ears." General Vos approached the rifle, examining it with new interest. "The energy signature is non-existent." His yellow eyes narrowed. "Our sensors would not detect this weapon being fired." "That's correct," Reed confirmed. "No energy signature, just physical force." For the first time, the council members exchanged worried glances. "Lieutenant," Zolthrak said, his voice now serious, "perhaps we underestimated the strategic implications of your technology. I believe we should discuss this further. Reed nodded, struggling to hide her satisfaction. The demonstration was just beginning, and already the council's attitude had shifted dramatically. Dr. Alan Wells stood before the council delegation in the weapons lab, his hand steady as he loaded a 9mm handgun. As Earth's leading weapons scientist, he had been called in to explain the science behind human firearms. The principle is simple, he began. A controlled explosion forces a projectile down a barrel at high speed. This bullet then transfers its kinetic energy to the target upon impact. Ambassador Zolthrak of the Vordari examined a bullet with his 6-fingered hand. Such a primitive concept. Solid projectiles seem so inefficient. Perhaps, Dr. Wells replied with a smile. But sometimes the oldest solutions remain effective for good reasons. The council weapons scientist, Turloff, scoffed. Our civilization abandoned such technology thousands of years ago. Energy weapons are cleaner, more precise, and don't require physical ammunition. Dr. Wells nodded. May I show you something interesting? He guided the group to a different section of the lab where several weapons were displayed. This is a standard shotgun, he explained, picking up the weapon. Rather than a single projectile, it fires multiple small pellets that spread out, covering a wider area. He fired the shotgun at a target. The council members flinched at the loud noise. The target showed dozens of small holes spread across its surface. Fascinating, murmured Krishan, adjusting his sensory apparatus. A single shot that creates multiple impact points. And this, Wells continued, is an assault rifle. It fires smaller bullets, but at a much higher rate. He demonstrated the rapid-fire weapon punching a cluster of holes in another target within seconds. Turloff's expression remained unimpressed, still inefficient compared to our phase disruptors. Perhaps, Wells conceded. But now, let me show you something else. He moved to a larger weapon mounted on a tripod. This is a heavy machine gun. It fires larger rounds at an even faster rate and can continue firing for extended periods. When he fired this weapon, the council members physically backed away from the thunderous noise and visible power. The target at the far end of the range was torn apart. General Voles of the Ikari approached cautiously. The destructive capability is significant, he admitted, but surely our shields would block such attacks. Dr. Wells looked at Lieutenant Reed, who nodded. That brings us to an important point, he said. Your shields are designed to stop energy weapons, correct? Of course, said Turloff. They create a field that disperses energy attacks, rendering them harmless. But they weren't designed with physical projectiles in mind, were they? Wells asked. The council members looked at each other. Finally, Zolthrak spoke. No, they were not. There was no need. Dr. Wells removed a small device from his pocket. This is one of your personal shield generators that you provided for research. May I demonstrate something? He activated the shield, creating a shimmering field around a mannequin. Then he picked up a handgun and fired. The bullet passed straight through the shield and embedded itself in the mannequin. The council chamber went completely silent. As you can see, Wells said quietly, your shields stop energy, not physical objects. Turloff moved forward, examining the shield generator and the damage. This is most concerning. There's something else you should understand, Wells continued. These weapons leave no energy signature. They can't be detected by your standard sensors when fired. The Vordari ambassador's scales seemed to pale slightly. You mean they could be fired without warning? Exactly, Wells confirmed. And there's more. These are just our basic weapons. He gestured to a sealed door at the far end of the lab. We have developed many others that you haven't seen yet. General Vaux's tail swished nervously. What kinds of others? Dr. Wells smiled. Railguns that use magnetic acceleration instead of explosive propellant. Gauss rifles. Coilguns, weapons that fire at speeds your shields would have even less chance of stopping. The delegation members exchanged glances again, their earlier condescension completely gone. Perhaps, Ambassador Zolthrak said slowly, "We have been too quick to dismiss your technology as primitive. I believe the Council needs to reconsider its assessment of human capabilities." 6 months after the weapons demonstration on Earth, an emergency signal interrupted a routine Council meeting. The holographic display in the center of the chamber flickered to life, showing a battle-damaged alien with blood streaming from multiple wounds. "This is Governor Pax of Centauri Colony. We are under attack. The Drachnid horde has broken through our outer defenses. Our weapons are ineffective against their new shield technology. We need immediate." The transmission cut off abruptly. The council chamber erupted in chaos. The Drachnids were contained in their home system, Ambassador Zolthrak said, his green scales darkening with stress. How could they have developed such technology? Reports began flooding in from other systems. 2 more council colonies had fallen in surprise attacks. The Drachnid horde, a species long considered dangerous but manageable, had suddenly become a major threat. Captain John Miller sat quietly in the human observer section of the chamber. Earth, still a provisional member, had no voting rights during council emergencies. But as the reports of destruction continued, he stood up. "Honored Council, may I speak?" he asked. Zolthrak waved a 6-fingered hand. "This is not the time for human input, Captain." "With respect, Ambassador, it may be exactly the time," Miller insisted. "These reports all mention the same thing. Energy weapons cannot penetrate the Drachnid shields." The council members turned to look at him. "What are you suggesting, human?" asked General Voles of the Ikari. "I'm suggesting that human projectile weapons might be effective against these shields, just as they passed through your personal shields during our demonstration." A wave of dismissive murmurs swept through the chamber. "Preposterous," said Turloth, the weapons scientist. "These are military-grade battle shields, not personal protection devices." "The principle may be the same," Miller argued. "If their shields are designed to stop energy attacks, physical projectiles might pass right through." Ambassador Clovos of the Navarre, a crystalline being who had remained silent until now, chimed in. "The human's theory has merit. The Drachnid's sudden advantage suggests they've developed specialized shielding. It likely focuses on energy dispersion." "Are you suggesting we arm our ships with primitive human cannons?" Zolthrak asked incredulously. "I'm suggesting we test the theory," Miller replied. "One human ship with our weapon systems could determine if physical projectiles can breach their defenses." The chamber fell into heated debate. Some council members ridiculed the idea of using ancient technology against the advanced Drachnid shields. Others argued that desperation called for unusual measures. Finally, a new emergency transmission appeared. This time, the feed showed a massive space battle. Drachnid ships, with their distinctive spiked hulls, fired upon a council defense fleet. The council ship's energy weapons splashed harmlessly against the Drachnid shields. "This is Admiral Xen of the Third Fleet. Our weapons are useless. We've lost 40% of our forces already. We cannot hold them." As the council watched in horror, the feed showed Drachnid boarding parties cutting through the council ship's hulls. The soldiers carried what looked like primitive cutting tools rather than energy weapons. "They're using physical attacks to breach our ships," General Vos noted, his yellow eyes widening. "Just as the human suggested might work against them." Ambassador Clovos turned toward Miller. "How quickly could Earth prepare a vessel with these projectile weapons?" "The UES Defender is already equipped with rail guns and missile systems," Miller replied. "It could be ready to deploy within 48 hours. Zolthrak stared at the continuing destruction on the view screen, then turned to face the council. "All those in favor of testing the human's theory, raise your hand," he said grimly. One by one, the council members raised their hands or appendages. "Captain Miller," Zolthrak said, turning to face him, "prepare your ship. The council will provide coordinates to the next likely Drachnid target. Let us hope your primitive weapons prove as effective as you claim." Miller nodded solemnly. "We won't let you down." The UES Defender hung in orbit around Talaris IV, a small council mining colony expected to be the next Drachnid target. Captain Lisa Garcia stood on the bridge, watching her crew prepare for battle. As Earth's newest warship, the Defender carried both traditional human weapons and experimental systems designed specifically for space combat. "Status report," Garcia ordered, her voice calm despite the tension. "All systems operational, Captain," replied Lieutenant Nathan Cole from the weapons station. "Railed guns charged and missile bays loaded. The Council ships have taken position on our flanks. 3 Council vessels, sleek, energy weapon platforms, positioned themselves in formation with the human ship. The Council had reluctantly agreed to follow Captain Garcia's lead for this engagement, a first in their long history." "Any sign of the enemy?" Garcia asked. "Nothing yet, but long-range scanners showed distortions consistent with their warp signatures," reported Officer Emma Diaz. "Estimated arrival: 15 minutes." On the lower decks, Special Forces Officer Kevin Morris briefed his ground team. 20 elite soldiers checked their weapons, a mix of traditional firearms and newer railgun rifles. "Remember, people," Morris said, "we're testing a theory here. If Captain Miller is right, our bullets and shells should pass right through Drachnid shields. If he's wrong," he left the sentence hanging. "Then we're all dead anyway," finished Sergeant Liley Park with a grim smile. "Might as well go down fighting." Morris nodded. "Exactly. The Council's boarding teams will back us up, but they're counting on our weapons to make the difference." The ship's intercom crackled. "All hands to battle stations. Drachnid vessels detected entering the system." Morris and his team moved to the deployment bay, where Council soldiers already waited. The aliens stared at the human weapons with a mixture of curiosity and lingering skepticism. On the bridge, Garcia watched the main view screen as 5 Drachnid warships appeared, their spiked hulls gleaming menacingly against the darkness of space. "They're launching fighters," Cole reported. "Shields at maximum." "Target the lead fighter with rail gun 1, Garcia ordered. "Let's test our theory." The Defender shuddered slightly as the electromagnetic rail gun fired, sending a tungsten projectile hurtling through space at tremendous speed. On the view screen, they watched as the small Drachnid fighter activated its shields, a blue energy field appearing around it. The projectile passed straight through the shield and shattered the fighter into pieces. A cheer erupted on the bridge. "It worked," Cole exclaimed. "Their shields didn't stop it." "All rail guns, open fire," Garcia commanded. "Target their main vessels. Launch missile barrage Alpha." The Defender's weapons roared to life. Projectiles and missiles streaked toward the surprised Drachnid fleet. The Council ships, seeing the effectiveness of the human weapons, moved forward as well, providing cover and drawing Drachnid fire, while the Defender continued its assault. 2 Drachnid ships exploded almost immediately, their shields useless against the physical projectiles. A third took heavy damage, but managed to launch boarding craft toward the Council vessels. "Morris, they're boarding the Vordari ship," Garcia reported through the comm. "Get your team over there." "Yes, Captain," Morris replied. His team raced to the transport bay and crossed to the Council vessel in minutes. Inside the Vordari ship, chaos reigned. Drachnid soldiers, protected by their impenetrable shields, cut through the Council defenders with ease. Their energy weapons bounced harmlessly off the Drachnid shields. Morris and his team arrived and immediately opened fire with their conventional firearms. The bullets tore through the Drachnid shields, dropping the stunned aliens before they could react. "Keep firing," Morris ordered as his team pushed forward, clearing corridor after corridor. The Vordari soldiers stared in amazement as the humans' primitive weapons decimated the previously unstoppable invaders. Captain Threx, the Vordari commander, approached Morris after the last Drachnid fell. "Your projectile weapons," he said, mandibles clicking with excitement. "They work perfectly. We must outfit all our ships immediately." In space, the battle had turned decisively. The remaining Drachnid ships attempted to retreat, but the defenders' railguns caught them before they could escape. Captain Garcia opened a channel to Council headquarters. "This is Captain Garcia of the UES Defender. Mission accomplished. The theory is confirmed. Human projectile weapons penetrate Drachnid shields completely. Request permission to begin outfitting Council ships immediately." Ambassador Zolthrak's face appeared on screen, his expression solemn. "Permission granted, Captain. It seems humanity has much to teach us after all." The Proxima station hung like a jewel in space, its massive ring structure housing over 50,000 beings from across the Galactic Council. As the primary trading hub for 3 sectors, its loss would be devastating, which was precisely why the Drachnid horde had targeted it. "Drachnid main fleet approaching," announced the station commander, a Trell named Golvex. 97 warships detected. "Our defenses cannot withstand such numbers." The emergency council session on the station fell silent. 2 weeks had passed since the UES Defender proved human weapons could penetrate Drachnid shields, but retooling the entire council fleet would take months. "Help is coming," Ambassador Zolthrak said. "The human fleet departed Earth 3 days ago with weapons for our ships." As if on cue, a communication officer rushed in. "Multiple ships emerging from hyperspace. It's the human fleet." The main view screen activated, showing 12 Earth vessels led by the massive UES Constitution. Behind them followed 30 Council ships. "This is Admiral Donna Wright of Earth Fleet. We've brought the weapons as promised. Requesting immediate docking to distribute and install." The next 6 hours were a blur of activity. Human engineers swarmed through Council ships, mounting railguns, missile launchers, and simple but effective projectile cannons. Council weapons experts watched in fascination as their advanced vessels were fitted with technology they had once dismissed as primitive. On the station itself, Major Olivia Wilson led 400 human soldiers in distributing firearms to Council security forces. They set up defensive positions at key points, preparing for the inevitable boarding attempts. "These weapons seem so inelegant," said a Navari security officer, examining the assault rifle Wilson had given him. Wilson smiled. "Sometimes inelegant works when elegant fails. Just point and pull the trigger. The bullets will do the rest." In space, the newly armed Council fleet moved into formation alongside the human ships. Admiral Wright addressed all vessels from the Constitution's bridge. "All ships, this is Admiral Wright. We've trained for this moment. Remember, your energy weapons will still be effective against their hull once their shields are down. Hit them with projectiles first, then finish them with energy. Good hunting." The Drachnid fleet appeared, moving with arrogant confidence toward Proxima Station. Their previous victories had made them bold, unaware of the trap awaiting them. "All ships, open fire," Wright ordered. The human and Council fleet erupted in a barrage unlike anything seen before in Council space. Rail guns accelerated metal projectiles to incredible speeds. Missile launchers sent guided explosives hurtling toward the enemy. Traditional naval cannons, hastily adapted for space warfare, fired shells that tore through Drachnid shields as if they weren't there. On the Drachnid command ship, panic spread. "Their weapons are penetrating our shields. How is this possible?" The first wave of Drachnid ships broke apart under the onslaught. Those that survived launched boarding craft toward Proxima Station, determined to capture it even as their fleet disintegrated. Inside the station, Wilson's troops waited. As the Drachnid boarding parties cut through the outer hull, human and Council defenders took position. "Hold until they're all inside," Wilson ordered. "Let them think their shields will protect them." The Drachnid soldiers poured in, energy shields glowing around them, weapons ready. They advanced confidently, expecting the same easy victory they'd achieved elsewhere. Wilson gave the signal, "Open fire." The combined human and Council force unleashed a hail of bullets. The Drachnid shields, impervious to energy, did nothing to stop the physical projectiles. Aliens fell by the dozens, their confidence turned to confusion, and then terror. In space, the battle had become a rout. Admiral Wright coordinated the fleet with precision, targeting Drachnid engines and weapons systems. With their shield advantage neutralized, the Drachnid ships were outmatched by the more experienced Council vessels. "They're retreating," announced Wright's tactical officer. "The remaining Drachnid ships are breaking formation." Within the station, Wilson's forces cleared the last of the boarders. She helped a wounded Ikari soldier to his feet. "Are they gone?" the Ikari asked. "They're gone," Wilson confirmed. "And I don't think they'll be coming back anytime soon." Admiral Wright opened a channel to all ships in the station. "Proxima is secure. The Drachnid fleet is in full retreat. Well done, everyone." On the station's command deck, Ambassador Zolthrak turned to the human representative. "It seems we owe humanity a great debt. Your primitive weapons have saved us all." The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council looked very different than it had 1 year ago. Where once the walls had displayed only energy weapons and advanced technology, now a section was dedicated to human firearms. Pistols, rifles, shotguns, and even a large machine gun were mounted in places of honor. Captain John Miller stood before the full council, no longer in the observer section, but at the center podium. All 12 species were present for this historic occasion. "Captain Miller," Ambassador Zolthrak began, his voice carrying through the chamber. "1 year ago you stood in this room as a representative of a species we considered primitive. Today, you stand before us as the savior of the council." Miller shifted uncomfortably. "I merely suggested a possibility, Ambassador. It was the brave soldiers and sailors of both Earth and the Council who won the war." "Nonetheless," continued Zolthrak, "your insight changed the course of history. The Drachnid horde has retreated to their home system and sued for peace. Their advantage was temporary, based solely on our technological blindness, a blindness you helped us overcome." The council members nodded in agreement. Even Turloth, who had been most dismissive of human weapons, inclined his head respectfully toward Miller. "Therefore," Zolthrak announced, "the council has voted unanimously to upgrade Earth's status to full membership, with all rights and privileges. Furthermore, we have created a new position, High Commander of Council Defense Forces. Captain Miller, we offer this position to you." A murmur of approval swept through the chamber. Miller stood straighter, aware of the honor being bestowed. "I accept with gratitude," he said, "and I promise to ensure that the combined forces of humanity and the Council will protect all our worlds." Ambassador Frank Carter, Earth's new diplomatic representative, stepped forward. "With this new partnership comes new responsibilities," he said. "Earth proposes the creation of a joint weapons development program, combining human kinetic weapon technology with Council energy systems." Dr. Alan Wells joined them at the podium, carrying what looked like a standard rifle with unusual modifications. "We've already begun the integration," he explained. "This prototype combines a traditional firearm with Zorvan energy focusing technology. It can switch between bullet and energy modes, or fire both simultaneously." He handed the weapon to General Voles of the Ikari, who examined it with obvious approval. "The perfect balance of old and new," the general purred. "We were wrong to dismiss your technology as primitive, humans. We now understand that different does not mean inferior." In the observation gallery, Lieutenant Samantha Reed watched with pride. Next to her stood Major Olivia Wilson and the other human officers who had fought in the war. They had all received commendations and promotions for their service. "Did you ever imagine this would happen when you gave that weapons demonstration?" Wilson asked Reed quietly. Reed shook her head. "I just wanted them to respect our capabilities. I never dreamed it would lead to saving the entire council." Down on the chamber floor, Zolthrak was unveiling a plaque to be installed on the council station. It showed images of human and council weapons side by side, with words written in multiple languages. In English, it read, "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways." "The Drachnid War taught us an important lesson," Zolthrak told the assembled delegates. "Progress is not always a straight line forward. Sometimes, technologies we consider outdated may hold the key to our survival. The humans reminded us that diversity of thought and approach is our greatest strength. It's strange, Miller mused. A year ago, they laughed at our guns. Now they're building them by the thousands. Carter nodded. People often laugh at what they don't understand, until they need it. Miller ran his hand along a mounted rifle, similar to the one he had carried as a young soldier. I'm glad we could help them, but I hope they remember the most important lesson. Which is? Carter asked. Never judge another species' technology until you've seen it in action, Miller said with a smile, because sometimes the simplest solution is the most effective one. Across the chamber, council members were already discussing new joint ventures with Earth representatives. The integration of kinetic and energy weapons had begun, but it was only the beginning. Human ingenuity and council knowledge, working together, would create defenses stronger than either could achieve alone. And high on the wall, the human firearms gleamed in their places of honor, a reminder that sometimes looking backward was the best way to move forward.